Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Ohuhu recently released a new series of markers, the Ohuhu Kaala series. And I could not resist and got one of their sets, so let's have a look at it together. The markers come in 150 colors and you can buy them in sets of 24 or 60 markers. Well, plus one since the sets come with a colorless blender, a plastic sheet to prevent bleeding, and a swatch card. You can get the set of 24 either as skin tone set or basic tone set, and the sets of 60 either as landscape tones or illustration tones. Only recently I discovered that there's a really handy overview on the Ohuhu website where they list all the colors of the different sets and actually mark the repeat colors. So if you'd like to get more than one set, you can easily find out which markers you'd get twice without comparing them all individually on your own. I got the landscape set because I think that the set will be a great addition to my current marker collection, which consists probably about 70% of Copic Chow and sketch markers and 30% of Winsor & Newton brush or pro markers. I never had any Ohuhu markers before, so I can only share my opinion on how they perform based on what I'm used to when working with other marker brands, but I cannot really compare them to other Ohuhu series. I will share my honest opinion with you, which is completely my own, and this video is not sponsored by Ohuhu, even though I wish it was. But it's not. Short disclaimer here, I'm not a professional marker artist, I'm an amateur. Therefore, my opinion is based on my amateur needs. And maybe you're an amateur too, and you can relate to my needs and opinions more than you would to an expert opinion because you're closer to my skill level and therefore might have similar needs. If so, high five, amateur friend. But if you're an expert, I'm sorry in advance for any inconvenience my lack of skills or knowledge might cause you, but I'm still learning and trying my best. So if you have any general tips for working with markers, feel free to share them in the comments so we can all learn together. And in general, please let me know in the comments what you think about this series of markers. Let's quickly talk about my marker experience. I personally feel most comfortable when using graphite or colored pencils and mostly use markers in combination with these mediums. For example, I use markers as a base color and then use colored pencils on top. So working exclusively with markers this time was definitely unusual for me, but I can already say that I had a great time. So let's talk about what's different about these markers and their pros and cons. The markers have a bullet nib on one side and a chisel nib on the other side, which is nothing new, but the chisel nib is said to be more precise than in the previous series. At least concerning the measurements, this is true. If the results are actually more precise, I can't tell since I don't know the old ones, but I can tell that I did not notice any difference to the Copics concerning the precision of the chisel nib. I tried to draw the tiniest lines possible with both and they were pretty much identical. However, you can definitely get wider lines than with the Copics because the Ohuhu chisel nib is simply wider. In comparison to the Winsor & Newton markers, however, it's pretty much the same width, only the shape is different. Another pretty obvious difference is the shape of the marker. It's oval and thinner on the bullet nib side than on the chisel nib side. I was quite skeptical at first because I wasn't sure if I would like it or if it might even bother me, but actually it does not bother me at all. At first I noticed the difference in size every time I turned the markers around, but by now I think I don't even notice it anymore. For me personally, it's absolutely fine, and I'm not sure if I prefer it this way over the Copics. However, I can say that I definitely prefer it over the Winsor & Newton marker shape, because those are just too big and bulky for my taste. Now let's talk about the pros and cons. If Ohuhu is famous for one thing, it's the price. I paid €41.99 for 60 or rather 61 markers, which means 70 cents per marker. A single Copic Chow marker costs around €4.39, which means the Copic marker is 6.2 times more expensive. 6.2 times! But is it also 6.2 times better? No, I don't think so. In fact, I think they are pretty much the same. I would really like to know why there's such a big difference in the retail prices. I mean, is there such a huge difference in production costs between those two brands? Or does Copic simply have a bigger margin here? We'll probably never know. Next up, the color selection. Overall, 150 colors are enough in my opinion, and the landscape set I bought blends in really well with the rest of my marker collection. However, there are some things that I would have liked to be different. For example, there are just 2 red tones which are pretty similar but no decent orange, even though one of the reds is called bright orange, but it's red in my opinion. And there's also no bright and vibrant yellow, which I would expect with a landscape set. I mean, think of sunflower fields, definitely landscape. But I guess that the landscape set is more of an extension pack to the basic tone set. Instead of a standalone, you will find just the right color for every type of landscape kind of set. There are some colors in the landscape set which are pretty similar to one another, so I would have liked one less of those and instead another red or orange. Next up, blending. Let's make it short and sweet. They blend fantastically, no matter if you're using the bullet nib or the chisel nib. They also blend really well with Copics or Winsor & Newton markers, so absolutely amazing. But if you blend a lot, there's also a lot of bleeding. However, since Ohuhu included a plastic sheet to prevent bleeding, I'm absolutely fine with it. I mean, they're alcohol markers after all, that's kind of what they do. Nevertheless, I gotta say that these markers are extremely juicy, up to a point where it's a little hard to figure out how close you can get to your line work without the ink spreading outside of the lines. The only downside to Ohuhus in the past was that they were not refillable and that you couldn't buy them individually, but rumor has it that Ohuhu is working on this topic. All in all, I gotta say that I am really impressed and understand why people hype Ohuhu so much. They have come a long way for a reason. So if you would ask me which markers to buy, my answer would be, and I did not expect that, get a nice set of Ohuhu markers, or maybe 2 sets, or maybe all of them, and go crazy with them. If you should still happen to miss a specific shade of purple or whatever, you can still get a Copic marker in that color, because admittedly they have more options. But unless you're a professional illustrator with specific needs that Ohuhu can fulfill, you will be absolutely fine with the Ohuhus. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye!